In this video, we're going to explore how you can use the math.floor function in JavaScript. JavaScript has built-in functions, and one of them is the math.floor function. And the math indicates that this is a calculation. So Java has multiple different categories, and math is one. And with that math, you have the extension of floor. And what does floor really do is basically, floor means going down to the bottom. And that means we're referring to rounding a number by default down, which can be very useful. You wouldn't use it quite often, but for example, you need to count how many products you have in stock, and you always want to have the whole number or the integer. You want to go down, and so you don't count, for example, let's say you have 10x, and for some reason you have a calculation, your average is 9.5x. However, you want to make sure you always go down, so you put in the floor, so it's 9x or 9 boxes of x, whatever you want, etc., etc. However, what we're going to do here is the math floor is to focus on a number, and that number, force it always down to the bottom. Let's start and explore here. So we have here a HTML file with a basic Bootstrap template, and this is my template here, HTML template. And what we're going to do now is we're going to start to create some basic stuff or basic constant where we will apply the math.floor function. So what we're going to do now is we're going to create a constant, and this constant will be, let's say we have a box of eggs. Egg box, or maybe a dozen eggs, whatever. So there will be a dozen eggs, and this has a price of, let's say $2.99. All right. So we have a price for that. And now what we want to do is we want to floor it. If we want to floor it, we want to go and round this down to the nearest integer. Yes, and we're talking about integers here because what is an integer? Integer is basically 2, 3 complete numbers. So basically whole numbers, no digits after the decimal. So we don't want any decimals. All right. So we have here 2.99 for one egg box with a dozen of eggs. How can we calculate this, or how can we use now the math.floor function? First of all, let's put in a console.log, and the goal with this is just to return the value of the egg box. So let's save this, refresh here, you see nothing happens here, but open up your developer tab and you can see something interesting. First of all, you will see that this is blue, meaning that this is a number, not a string. Yes, a string is a piece of text, and a number is like this. This becomes blue. If it's a string, let me show you. If it's a string like this, there's a quotation marks between there. If I save it and refresh, you will see now the text here has been grayed out. This means that in the console and in the browser understands that this is not a number but a text. And that can be important information if you want to calculate or multiply something, and this can give you some errors. So that's why it's I do like Google Chrome. It shows you some extra information. I'm sure the others does as well, and this is a quite handy tool to see as well. All right, so now we have this. Now what we're going to do is we're going to create another console log, and in here we're going to use the math with capital letter M. Very important, because this is a JavaScript function predetermined already with capital letter M. And then we say floor as in ground. So in here we're going to put in the value, or our constant in our case. We can put in also the number, doesn't matter, but we can put in here the constant, which is probably more appealing. So we can, if we would adjust this to another price, it will immediately adjust. So let's start and explore. So we're going to explore this. Let's save this and then go back here and refresh. So now what happened is the following. You can see we have first 3.99, which is correct, and then after you see number 3. So what happened here? We have rounded the value by default down. No matter if it's 99 or 99.9 or 99.9. Yeah, so basically this should be 4. You would say, well, if you round it by default, it will be 4. If you round it up, it will, or round ceiling, it will force it to 4. However, with this, you force it to the lowest value. So you always go close to 0 here. Yeah, so you go in the negative way, basically. So if you can refresh here, you can see here, it's still, even though we have everything here, they would say all the signs should be 4, it makes it go back to 3. All right, and if you're going to do this to 1, you will see that this is exactly the same. All right. So now is a question for you, and this is a tricky one, and it's always fun. So what happens if you have a negative number? So if you have a negative number, let's say we have a product here and we have a negative number. So what does floor do? You might say, most likely say, well, all right, floor is always going down to the lowest integer. So you will say, there you are, we're going to make this, and this will be 3. So I'm going to save this, and you'll see that this will not be 3, and you might be surprised. So let's refresh this, and now you can see 3.1 becomes 4. You might say that does not make any sense, because it should be 3, because it should go to the floor and not to the upper number 4. But the logic here is slightly different. So what's the logic behind this? Well, let me explain here. This is the logic here. Basically, we are always going closer to 0 or always going in the down direction. Yes. So if we have 3.9, we're going close to 0, but in a negative direction. Yes, in a negative direction. So direction, this would mean very simply 3.9 becomes 3. So what is the negative direction of 3.1? It is not 3. The reason why, if we go to 3, it's considered that we're, or sorry, not 3, sorry, if we're going to minus, if it's minus 3.1, we are not, I'm going to put here next, not going to, or maybe here, it's not equal to minus 3. And the reason why is this is because this is more positive. You might say, what do I mean by what do I mean by more positive? Well, it is close to 0 in a positive sense. And what I mean by that is we are giving it a closer to 0. So there's like 10 cents lesser to pay here instead of 10 cents more. I hope you get this. This is very important. So it's close to 0 in a positive sense, and this is not allowed. You say, no, we don't work like that, because we always go in a negative direction. So we're going away from the 0. This one goes close to the 0, but once you're here, you always go away from the 0. So floor here must be 4, or negative 4, because that would mean 0.9 away from the 0. And if you would have 3.1 go to, or sorry, if you have the minus 3.1 going to 3, what will happen? It would mean, that would indicate that we're giving it a 0.1 or 0.10 decimal, whatever you want, 0.1 benefit. You understand what I'm saying here? I hope you get this. This is really important, because this is exactly the opposite logic. And it's not really the opposite logic, it's just the way it thinks, or how the function works. If it's always going away from the 0, if you're going here, you're going closer back to 0, which cannot be. The logic is inconsistent in that case. So while this looks inconsistent, it is not inconsistent. The minus 4 makes sense if you understand how the function works. It goes away from the 0. Or if it's positive, it will always go down close to the 0. But once it is a negative number, it must go away from the 0, because if it goes closer back to the 0, it's basically positive. And that's, the floor works like that. So I hope you get this. I do like this kind of weird stuff, because the logic in here, understanding this kind of logic, basically the engine room of the formulas, gives you a better way of thinking how functions and JavaScript works under the hood, basically. So I hope you like these kind of things, and I hope you get this part. If you have any questions regarding to this, I don't blame you, it's quite complicated. Put them in the comment section below. If you like videos like this, subscribe to my channel, and maybe if you are interested in Chart.JS, check out my Chart.JS course, where we create charts, and all this information you have here is extremely applicable in creating a chart in Chart.JS. If you want to know where my course is, it's on Udemy. Check out the comment section, or sorry, not the comment section, but the description box below. You can find the link in there.